Hi, and welcome to Coach's Corner, where systems matter and both personal and professional learning and development is beneficial for everyone and essential for some. As always, please like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit the notification bell. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, today we're joined here with Coach Little Z23, or better known as, or well as known, Brett Zandis.
Yes, sir.
In the last video we talked about exemplary performance and quality programs, so if you guys haven't seen that, I suggest going back and watching that. We will discuss a little bit about what that is and how they combine together, but the first video is a really good video. It'll give you the framework that you need for the second video. But now that you're here for the second video, we're going to discuss a little bit about the exemplary performance, a little bit about the quality program, and how they go together hand in glove. So,
Yes.
starting with the exemplary performance, can you just briefly discuss what those are and, the nifty 9 and what those 9 are?
Yeah, so we created that for after school, what they call paraprofessionals.
Mm-hmm.
And, but it'll work for any, what we call youth champion,
Okay.
for the most part, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like the homework or the academic piece for a parent, maybe they're not teaching their kids that, but it'll really work for most youth champions, as we talked about. So whether that's teachers or after-school professionals, youth pastors, coaches, babysitters, it kind of runs the gamut.
Yeah, okay.
But the first one that we always like to talk about is safety,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, when we talk about that, what does that look like? So it might be line of sight or different things of that nature, making sure that there's no dogs around or somebody that's, harm's way, or, that gate just came undone. There's a little thing sticking out, level or whatever. And then the second one that we talk about, and they go interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I try to put the second one first most of the time, but it can go either direction, which is professionalism. How do you be a professional? How do you dress correctly? How do you talk to people? Hey, how's it going? Be nice and friendly and different things of that nature. But just being a good professional as you're walking, up on these schools and school districts and different things of that nature.
Yeah.
And then when you get with the kids, we call it the trilogy, which is inside the nifty 9.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talk about how are you going to manage the environment.
Mm-hmm.
And so what that would look like, let's say, it's easier to talk about it when you're outside, but it could be inside as well, to make sure, getting ready to play sports or something, there's no holes or again, dogs or things that can hurt the kids. It's maybe setting up the bases, just getting things ready, managing the environment. The next part of that is what we call behavior guidance.
Mm-hmm.
And so, kids will get unfocused or whatever, you're teaching a lesson or just they're off task or whatever. And so one of the things that we do is what we call the proximity, behavior guidance, one of the skills. And, I move real close to somebody and they're like, they get away.
Yeah.
And we do the same thing with kids. And they, you get this close to them an inch or two away and they're like, they're going to stop goofing off and messing off and different things. You don't have to say a word.
Yeah.
Right? Or just a look. That could be a behavior guidance situation.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of skills and skill sets within these things that we talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one is a positive discipline.
Okay.
And so it's kind of funny because it's like, what's the difference between motivation and manipulation? If we have a circle, we draw a line down the middle, and you're facing, let's say, north, and that's motivation. When you turn right around, it can be manipulation. It's really a mindset piece. But so I can put somebody on timeout and it's negative discipline, or I can put somebody on timeout and it's positive discipline. So how do you differentiate the two? Well, when you put somebody on timeout with positive discipline, what you do is you say, you've already set it up. Hey, this is time for you to think on what you might do differently for the future to make sure you're not getting put on timeout, so to speak.
Got it.
And so those are your top 5, and within there you've got 4 of them we call the Fab 4, and then the 5th is the Fantastic 5, and like I said, we already have the trilogy and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And then the other 4 in various orders, depending on how you want to do it, but one of them is called what we call the direct and tell versus questioning techniques.
Okay.
So the direct and tell is, you hear the moms that not only are they telling their kid in Walmart what to do, they're directing it. Well, what's the difference? Everybody says, well, directing says, Hey, go pick up that thing. No, not with your left hand, with your right hand. No, not out there. No, don't bend over at the waist. Bend, it's just a constant barrage of these directives.
Yeah.
And then the telling, which is a little bit better, but not a lot, is, hey, go pick up your Legos. Hey, pick up your clothes. Hey, pick up the crayons. But if you missed, the coloring book, making your bed, and whatever else, then, right? Because it's where the ownership's at. The ownership's on the director or the teller.
No.
So what we do is we just say questioning technique, state the objective.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we're trying to get your room cleaned up. What are some things that you think? And you're talking to the kid or whoever. And again, business people can do it. These aren't tricks of the trade or best practices.
Yeah.
The toolbox of, the tricks aren't just for after school professionals or youth champions or whatever. It's parents, like I said, so on and so forth, but it can also be business people, entrepreneurs, hobby collectors, side hustlers. You could go on and on about it. And so anyway, with that, you have how do you set it up? So you state the objective, and room needs to be clean, and what do they say this, that, and whatever. I need to make my bed. But they forget these three things. So then you go right back into directing and tell, well, you need to do this, that, or do whatever. Or you could just say, what I call, what about this? And they go, oh, yeah. In the end, that was you kind of interjecting. Right. But the bottom line is, as a whole, you say, okay, are you committed to doing that? And, you have those things. They go into it. So at first, that takes a little bit of time. But think about it. And this is something we did not talk about in the last video, so I'm glad it came to mind. If you think about that up front, maybe there's a little extra time.
Yeah.
But then, now that they know how to get themselves ready for school, or they know how to get themselves ready to transition from the opening to the rotation, they know how to transition from the club enrichment to the right. Then it becomes quick, because you can be like, hey, you guys already know you've been doing it for 4 weeks.
Right.
Any questions? Boom, boom. Now we're into it, because that's speed, right?
Yeah.
And that's what systems do. That's what people that can plug into the Nifty 9, the Trilogy, whatever, so on and so forth. So that's kind of the basis, and then at the end you say something to the effect of, so what's a reasonable time frame to get that done?
Yeah.
They say 30 seconds minimum. I said, okay, go to it. And then you can do a countdown, which makes sure that they do it in a timely manner.
Got it.
And so I think that was number half a dozen, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't like the word.
Yeah.
As you know, I skip from 5 to 7. And so then number 7 could be transitions.
Okay.
And so, that's simply closing down one thing and opening up another. So again, let's just say you're at home, you're watching TV with your kid. Hey, we're getting ready to close down this activity because we're getting ready to go to the dinner table. Yeah. What are some things that, going back to the questioning techniques, what are some things that we need to do to get that situated? Well, I need to turn down the TV. I need to put the blankie back. Whatever they're going to say. Yeah. And then sometimes within that setting, you would say, and what are the things you're going to need to do to get, over to the dinner table? Well, I need to, walk, not run, because that would be a safety thing. I need to, get my paper plate, or I need to get my food as I'm going, whatever it is. Yeah. And the same kind of thing. You go, okay, great. So you're committed to doing that? Yeah, time frames, whatever. So it's just closing down of one thing and making sure that you open up another. And there's various ways to do that. You could do it all at once. You can get this activity, stopped, get them to a transition spot, and then transition to the other one. Okay, hey, now we're in the hallway. What, that kind of stuff. Yeah. What would you do? Blah, blah. And then the next one is holistic instruction. It's how you teach. Okay. And so what we try to say is, how do you teach kids on the front end and make it impactful, make it stick, right? Yeah. And so we have holistic instruction. It's basically broken down in an opening, like a middle of the road type stuff, and then a closing. Yeah. And up here in the opening, you're going to ask them about prior knowledge. Okay. So when it talk about, tying your shoe. So what do you guys know about tying your shoe? You're going to get all kinds of, bunny ears and loop the hoop and boot the whoop, whatever they're going to tell you. Yeah. You can say, okay, great. So you state the objective of this is what we're going to do. Then you get their prior knowledge. Then you move into what I call the meat of it, or the content. Yeah. And so you're going to teach. Mm-hmm. You're going to teach. You're going to demonstrate. You're going to do all of that, right? In the teaching part of it, I call it part A.
Yeah.
And then in part B, you're going to, you know, after you've taught and demonstrated and explained all that, then you're going to let them go practice.
Yeah.
Okay, practice tying your shoe, whatever. And then you can do what I call the attention getter. So you get all their attention. Hey, and it's called a teachable moment. Hey, we talked about in the opening, in your prior knowledge, this, and this. Well, I just saw little Sally, and she didn't hoop the loop and boop the boop, and she didn't, you know, make a circle and hop the hop. But she got the same thing that everybody else did. Is that a bad thing?
Right.
So you talk about that.
Got
There's
it.
different ways to get to the end result, so to
Yeah.
speak. And then you do your closing, and in that way, we do it like one of two ways, usually both. We'll do a review, which is what I think as the teacher, the educator, the whatever, the trainer, what I think is important.
Mm-hmm.
So I say it's the hoop, the loop, and the whoop, whoop. Those are the three things,
Yeah.
right? And you're just reviewing, and then the reflection is what do they think. And so that's going to be, you know, usually in the form of a confirmation, a tweak, or an aha.
Yeah.
So, hey, teacher, my confirmation was the hoop makes sense,
Yeah.
right? Because it works every time. Nothing. Somebody else goes, aha moment. I never knew about the hoop, and now I'm glad I do because I've been wearing Velcro because I didn't know how to tie my own shoe,
Yeah.
right? And then another one would say, my tweak. Oh, I didn't know you could hoop this way. I only hoop this way, right? You know, almost like, do you wipe from back to front, or you know,
Yeah.
it's just different variations of it. So that right there is a really good way to be able to do holistic instruction. And then the last part that we always make sure that we tie it into at the end is we say, in our minds as teachers, we're saying, how do we make this learning opportunity or this activity into a learning opportunity?
Mm-hmm.
And the way that we do that is making it for real life. We say that, you know, whether it's after school programming or K-12 education or just life period right now.
Yeah.
Right? This is the practicing ground for the real world.
Mm-hmm.
Based off of that, how do we make it as close to the real world as possible?
Yeah.
And so we would say, okay, you know, tying your shoe, you know, maybe your little brother was running down the street, his shoes weren't tied, and you could have helped him to do it, and he falls and knocks his tooth out.
Yeah.
Well, we make sure that, hey, who else, you know, whose shoes can you help to tie? Do you have any younger brothers? Do you know, why is it important? Why, you know, all of that.
Yeah.
And just try to make this activity a good learning opportunity.
Got it.
Right?
Yep.
And then the last one is what we call an actual debrief.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, what was your key learning today or during this situation?
Okay.
And then you would say, how might you use that in your personal life?
Mm-hmm.
Anything that's outside of career material or, you know, anything for the kids outside of school.
Right.
You know, how much you use that learning in your personal life, how much you use in your professional life. They're like, what's professional? Well, your school, usually from 8 to 3, or you could actually say from 8 to, you know, half a dozen o'clock if they're in after school.
Yeah.
And then you say, will you commit to do something with that learning? Usually within the next 24, 48, 72 hours, or they'll lose it.
Right.
And then, but you give them a time frame and a deadline to that, or they give you one better. And then you say, are you committed to that?
Got
And
it.
so did I get them all?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, I'm worn out.
And then now we'll go to the quality program.
Yeah.
Which is the Super 7 or Elite 8, depending on the day.
Yeah.
And so if you could, you know, briefly discuss those.
Yeah. So, you know, we try to break things down with systems, you know, one bite at a time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Inch by inch is a cinch. Mile by mile takes a while, you know,
Yeah.
all of that kind of stuff. So I'll start with the Elite 8. So there's these 7 that we'll talk about. Once a week, usually the teachers were getting in-service or trained.
Okay.
So we get an extra hour or so with the kids.
Yeah.
So we threw in team challenge with them, which was usually, not always, but, you know, this group versus this group, or boys versus girls, or, but sometimes it was the teachers, you know, or what we call program leaders versus the kids.
Okay.
But it would go on for like a month, and at the end you get points, and whoever, you know, won, they get the pizza party. Everybody got the pizza, but you got the, you know, one with,
Bragging rights.
yeah, sausage and
Yeah.
pepperoni. They only got the one with cheese, or, you know, whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we did that. But what we did, and the words aren't great, but the meaning behind them are really great.
Okay.
So we started with pre-opening.
Mm-hmm.
And that was any time from the time you woke up till the time you got to technically into what we would call the pre-opening, but almost like getting onto campus,
Okay.
right? And so everything that you need to get ready and what you need to think about, and what's going on in your head, you know, how do you greet people, and you get, you know, just really kind of pre-planning so that when you get there, you've already played it in your mind a couple times. So when you see the principal and you're a little nervous to talk to him, you don't go, you go, hey, Mr. Principal, how you doing?
Right.
You know, that kind of stuff. Then you would go into the second one of the 7, which is what we call the pre-opening, and that's the time where the facilitator, leader, supervisor, boss would be with the rest of the adults. So when I was the program, when I was the site coordinator before I became the program manager, I was at a site and we had 16 adults, right? And so they would kind of get ready for the day, supplies or lesson planning a little bit, or maybe we'd do a training, or they would, you know, do it. We have our C4K. One of the things that we do is we have like 400 videos. We have courses and just, you know, one-offs and different things like that on how to beat anything.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And so they could, you know, get trained or whatever. But then at the end, we would usually circle up and we would do like a check-in. How's everybody doing? Thumbs up, down, or whatever. If we had a little bit more time, how's everything going? It could be personal or professional. Yeah, you know, I'm a little tired because, you know, as you guys know, my mom has cancer, and we've been, you know, so it's really just a time to get to build team and to check in, and we do some icebreakers, or what are we doing for the day, or what's going on for the next week. Just kind of really get everything in tune with each other.
Okay.
And then we would go into opening, and that's where everybody and their mother could be a part of it. It was a communal opening. So we used to really try to knock this out of the park. We used to try to make this be one of the best things that we did, not because of show, but because the after-school paraprofessionals for a long time, you know, kind of baby was in the corner.
Yeah.
And, you know, they didn't know how hard these guys were working. They were working as hard as the teachers, or sometimes even more hard.
Yeah.
And it was kind of the same parallel things that they did.
Yeah.
And so, but they're paraprofessionals. They don't have a credential.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but we would do an opening, and we'd meet with the kids, and we, you know, they get a snack, and we do roll. We do a check-in with them. We would do some fun stuff. We would do announcements. Sometimes we'd have a little challenge, a little itty-bitty team challenge. You know, we'll call it the mini challenge. But we would just, you know, really get there. But that's where custodians could be, their secretaries. You know, even if they're just walking through and passing. Yeah. So that's why we wanted to, you know, get that thing bolstered up a little bit.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, you go to Disneyland, it's cool. But at night when they do that light show, it's bolstered up a little bit. So we really tried to, you know, get people to bolster that up. And then we went into one of 3 rotations. You know, they could happen in any placement, but there were always 3 rotations. One was homework / academic. Yeah. Usually we just did homework help there. Okay. And we would help the kids with their homework, and we would do it by, you know, groupings, or we would have the adult at one table, or, you know, just different things of that nature. We would cross tutor, we'd peer-to-peer tutor, we'd do all kinds of stuff, or teacher homework help. Probably not tutoring, but some of that too. Yeah. And some of it could be that, like if this kid needed extra help in English language arts, then we could send them off or do a pull out. Somebody could come within, or we could teach them some stuff. Just spending some extra time with them on an academic component, or if homework was, you know, more difficult for them than you know, the guy next to them. Yeah. Okay. And then the second rotation in elementary, we called it enrichment. And then the other one is what we call club. And they were both the same. It was like what I would call disguised learning, you know, with the club or in the enrichment. But it would be something that would be typical, you know, a club of, you know, sports or music, but it could be origami. It could be, you know, how to, you know, play strategic games, chess, check. I mean, anything the kids wanted. Yeah. Right. And we would do disguised learning. So we were teaching them this activity, kind of like we talked about the activity to learning opportunity, but we were teaching them math or history or science or whatever. They didn't know what was going on, you know, but it was just a fun thing for them. Okay. And then the last rotation was like what they call healthy living. Okay. Used to be just PE or some kind of physical activity. Yeah. And that's pretty self-explanatory. How do you eat correctly, sleep, hydrate, work out? Or, you know, what are the activities you can do that are lifelong activities? Yeah. Walking, playing golf, frisbee versus tackle football, or, you know, I mean, I guess at 90 you could, you know, play a little basketball, but probably not too good on the joints. Uh-huh. So we would, you know, talk about, you know, that kind of stuff. Okay. And then we would go into the closing, which was the last part of it. And And that's where everybody would come together as another. So we did a communal opening and a communal closing. But now the community could come in.
Okay.
So most of the teachers and secretaries and stuff like that were gone. Not the custodians, of course, because they're working till night. But and some of the great administrators, principals, and whatever, they'd be around.
Okay.
But really, it was a time to bring community in. So we did a lot of things that would get some of these parents that are going 150 miles per hour to stop and play Rainbow Bright with their kid or Connect Four or something. So, and that was really a good communal time for the community.
Got it. Okay. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to take the Super 7.
Yeah.
And we're going to combine it with the Nifty 9.
Okay.
And so I'm not going to ask 9 for each one.
Yeah.
I just kind of picked each 3 that I think
You're just going to pick and choose. You're the boss.
Yeah.
You do whatever you want.
Okay. So we're going to start with, what does pre-open look like for managing the environment?
Right. So, I look at it and say, if I was a school teacher, it could be anything at home. But when I would be walking up, they say you read the room.
Yeah.
What is this person? Oh, they like sports, or they're their kids, or they're, whatever.
Right.
It'd be kind of a similar thing. So as I was, driving up to the school, I'm looking.
Yeah.
Any suspicious characters? Are there dogs around? Is there 2 people arguing? What's going on here, right? And so I'm kind of looking at that. And then it would be just making sure that I park in the right spot.
Okay.
Right? Or that that I'm able to make sure that I have my bag that's full of the stuff that I'm going to go do for such and such activity that I want to have planned today. Because in managing the environment in the big picture, it's just being able to say, how do you take your environment and make sure that you're preparing it correctly for whatever activity you're going to do.
Okay.
So that one's a little bit rough in the pre.
Yeah.
But you can still think about it.
Got it. And then what about any professionalism in the pre?
Yeah, to me, that's, so we talk about you can do all of these things kind of throughout the day.
Yeah.
But that's a big one, right? So, and you said in the pre, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's everything, right? So getting your mindset right. We've talked about, how many times you see Mickey Mouse not smile.
Right.
Right. So you're getting your brain transition from whatever's going on in your personal life to you got these kids.
Yeah.
And they got enough problems. You don't want to bring any of the problems there.
Right.
Are you dressing right? Did you get the proper stuff? Did you get your supplies right? All of that, even just driving from your house to, actually getting to campus.
Got it.
So there's a lot of things you can do mindset wise, the way you're dressed, your land, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot there.
Okay, gotcha. Now we're going to move to the pre-open.
Yeah.
And let's talk about behavior guidance.
Yeah, so remember, it's you as the adult facilitator, leader versus the others.
Right.
So let's say that you saw, somebody that was coming in and they forgot about Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
And they had a bad attitude.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's say they're, doing whatever over there, then, maybe I just go stand real close next to them. And it's like a
wake up.
Yeah, it's like, if I snap or,
yeah.
Somebody turns off the light, it's that trigger.
Yeah.
Right? We talk about that in the individual system, getting organized.
Yeah.
There's triggers that we need, Post-its or different things like that.
Yeah.
So, or you can make a simple comment, because I'm not teaching anybody.
Right.
So I don't want to stop the learning, but I might say, hey, Joe, how's Mickey Mouse going today?
Right.
And they're like, oh, crap, because they may forget. Or if they're having a bad attitude, or maybe there's 2 of them, I may sit them down and be like, hey, you guys a married couple?
Right.
So, just usually if you did a trigger, they'd stop themselves. But if not, you may have to go a little deeper.
Got it. And then how about safety in the pre-open?
Yeah, I mean, to me, you would think like, oh, what's the big deal? But, if you're the facilitator,
yeah,
and you're the leader in that space, everything that happens is on you.
Right.
Right? So is it possible for a drunk to stumble into your room while you're doing, getting ready to do your gathering, your circle up?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not probable. But guess what? I've had it happen before.
Yeah.
A drunk-ass parent came in stumbling, and so it's my job to keep them safe, the person,
Right.
as well as my people.
Right.
Right? So I had to redirect them and talk, or they could have went to jail. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. Now remember, people are like, "There's no way." Yeah, now because the guidelines are so strict. But back then, we had open campuses, and we didn't have the what do they call them, the metal detectors and all. We didn't have that.
Right.
So we had a wasp situation that came through the doggone vents. So, it's stuff that you don't necessarily think of, but also, is that shelving unit, is it getting ready to fall over? So, not just physical safety, but what about emotional safety?
Yeah.
Are we in a safe spot so that we can begin this pre-opening and people could go, yeah, I broke up with my girlfriend. It's really bothering me. Right? To get it out so that they could get to the kids. So, there was physical, there was emotional, there was mental, so, there's a lot of things to consider when it's safety. It's not just about physical safety.
Right.
It's about all of those things.
Got it. And then the last one, what does holistic instruction look like, when dealing with other adults?
Same way. You teach them in the exact same way. Okay. If you're smart.
Right.
Right? So, hey, what do you guys know about behavior guidance? Prior knowledge. Right? And then they go into it and they say whatever. You go, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, start with the objective. Hey, we're going to talk about behavior guidance.
Yeah.
What do you know about it? And then I would teach them, right? Now, I may not have to demonstrate as much for them. I can just explain.
Right, okay.
Right? Or we can watch a video. Consult for Kids videos. Yeah. There's 400. Right? Or, whatever the case may be. And then we would go through the same thing. We would review, or we would reflect, or we would debrief, or we would make this, activity, learning opportunity. We do the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Because good systems, in this case, are universal. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, like I said, whether you're a business owner, whether, Now, certain things, like your competency training, is just specific for that job. So if I'm a mechanic, there's certain things that I have to do that are specific to that job.
Right.
When I'm a youth champion or work with kids, there's something different.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
But this is, a lot of it's universal.
Okay.
And that's how we created it on purpose.
Got it. And then, so now we're in the open.
Yeah.
It
was the most fun time I had.
Okay. So how would you, if needed, positive discipline someone?
Well, I didn't have to, because I behavior guide. If you behavior guide well, you don't have to discipline ever, right? Because they already know.
Got it.
So I used to tell people, I had my 2 or 3 go-tos with behavior guidance.
Yeah.
And so when people go, well, what do you do for, I go, let me think about that for about a half hour, because I never had to use it.
Right.
Right. But we would do things like we would stick them on timeout. So let's say we were in the opening. Let's say everybody's in there.
Yeah.
So let's say, because remember, a lot of these things, it can be an individual, it can be a partner, it could be a small group,
right?
It could be the whole whatever. So I had 270 kids, and they was acting like fools, right?
Yeah.
We would do the normed agreements. They weren't following those. So I had an intention getter ready, and they'd say hit, and had to instantly be quiet, going back to safety, right? Yeah. So we would do that, and I'd say, okay, so you guys know I'm not much into disciplining because I don't think that I need to. Mm-hmm. But right now, I'm going to guide your behavior and give you a timeout. And that timeout gives you a chance, as you guys well know, to consider what might you do differently in this particular section of the day to be able to do whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So that would be my behavior guidance. I know you asked about discipline. So what I would do is we would have little things that we would do is if it was individual, let's say, or even a small group, we do a timeout within the group. Okay. So if we did it as a large group, we could still time them out. Mm-hmm. Right? It wasn't like a punishment. Yeah. It was that. So we could do it with the individual, small group, or with the large group. Right? So little things like that you can do with the large groups that will still be, what we would classify as positive discipline versus, hey, yelling, screaming, right. Whatever, or punishing them. I'm taking this away from you, right? You're not getting your reset, all this stuff, which is all negative and punitive, which is no good. No. So we just tried to to do similar things that made it, more positive.
Got it. And then as you're transitioning from opening,
yeah,
what did your transition look like In opening, sorry.
Yeah, so what we would do is, at the end of the announcements or the challenge, little mini team challenge or whatever we were doing, is we would say, hey, we're going to need to close this down. What are some things that you need to do? After a week, so they get it like, hey, we're getting ready to close down. So we're all clear, right? Any questions?
Right.
Right? And it's that simple. So they close it down, and then let's say, the fourth graders are transitioning to this door. The third graders are transitioning to the set, right? Or the sixth graders are sitting down.
Yeah.
Everybody else goes because there's only 4 doors, or we dismiss by table, or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But it was, we would close it down, and we would do like a little quick review, and maybe we would do it with thumbs up, sideways, or down. Maybe we'd ask them and say, partner up. Tell your buddy, what was your review today? Well, my confirmation was or reflection. My confirmation was,
Yeah.
So we had all these, we had 100 different variations of the same thing.
Yeah.
Which is, hey, we're getting ready to transition from this, so we got to close it down.
Right.
We're getting ready to go here, so we got to open your mind up here.
Yeah.
So close your mind on punching your neighbor, and open your mind to it's now homework time.
Right.
And we used to tell them that, right? Like, as an example, it used to bother me. So I would watch these other teachers, and they would have their kids walk in a straight line, right? And they would run people over. But they had to be in a straight line, right? Looking the part. I didn't believe in that. So I used to tell my guys when I would walk with them, or we'd be transitioning out, let's say, from wherever to wherever. I said, I don't care how you walk. Walk as a cluster mess for all I care. But I'm telling you right now, if you happen to see an adult or somebody else that is needing to get across, you better stop what you're doing. And if you see that they're struggling, you need to go ask them, can I help you with that box, or, whatever. Yeah. Right? That's the intent behind it. But we get these robots walking in a straight line, and they be knocking people over. Or I'd see, the custodian have 17 things in their hands, like balancing all over, and nobody would help. But boy, we're going to walk in a straight line. So, in that part of the transition, I just want to throw that in there, because it was like, come on, guy, we're not here to put on a show for anybody. Right? We're not here for the activity. We're here for the learning opportunity. We're here because this is the practicing ground for the real world. Yeah. That's why we're doing this. We're not playing 8th grade sports. There's no money involved. There's We're playing so that you know how to work hard, take something, ownership, because when your lights go out when you're 20 years old, or you may have to make a decision, you've already practiced it 40,000 times. Yeah. Right? That's what we're trying to be able to do there. So close it down, open it up.
Got it. And so now we'll move into our first, we'll go as club or enrichment. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. So let's talk about, direct and tell versus question.
Well, it's like my pet peeve. Everybody's got their pet peeves. Oh my gosh, man, it used to tick me off. So the directing we've talked about isn't just telling them, hey, go pick up the trash. Yeah. It's saying, hey, go pick up the trash. No, with your left hand. No, your other left hand. No, your right hand. No, do it, cup it. I mean, and you're just like, right? So I used to tell them, I get real close to them. I'd say, hey, got a question for you. Do you plan on being a Siamese twin, being connected to them for the rest of their life? They go, no. And I go, well, then you better think about questioning them versus, getting them to think on their own and all that, versus this direct and tell nonsense. Right. Because the directing is actually quite insulting, and the telling doesn't do anything anyway. Because as we've talked about before, I tell them to clean up the game, push in their chair, and blah blah, and then they forget to whatever, dump the trash, put on their coat, and sing hallelujah, hallelujah, whatever. Yeah. Right? And it's like, good night. And then what the adults start to realize is that's exhausting. Yeah. You seen these parents in Walmart and Target? They do this, left hand, right hand, stand up, sit down, fight, right? And it's like, you're like, oh my gosh, you're exhausting me. Yeah. So we just did a simple thing that we said, state the objective, and then ask them what they think needs to happen to have that objective happen. Yeah. And then if you need to throw in something real crucial, go, what about? Ponder for 3 seconds, and then throw it in there, and then make a commitment, put a time frame to it, and are you guys all good? Like, yeah. Well, if you do that same thing, and if you're trying to get them to transition from opening to a club enrichment activity, after about the 7th, 10th time, you just say, hey, we're all on the same page, right? They go, yeah, boom. So up front, it's a little bit more work, but in the rears, you're saving tons of time, and you're not exhausted.
Right. Got it. And then let's go into the debrief. So now you're debriefing the club or enrichment.
Yeah, so to me, that's the best because, we're going to say, hey, what was your key learning today? And so, they just did this activity.
Yeah.
So that's all they're, talking about, but we're going to make it deeper. We're going to say, so they say, oh, my key learning is wearing a blue shirt on Monday. Okay. Yeah. How might you use that in your personal life? Mm-hmm. And they'd go, oh, well, if I wear blue, it makes my eyes pop out. Or, I don't know what they're going to say, but that's how I would use that. Okay, cool. How might you use that in your professional life? Mm-hmm. Well, if I do that, it makes my blue eyes pop out. I don't know what they're going to say. And then what you do is you get them to say, well, what's the time frame, that you're going to commit to on making sure that you do that both personally and professionally. You're going to take that new key learning and do something with it right away. Yeah. And when they say, oh, a week, I just shake my head. Yeah. I said, no. If it's not within, usually that night, but let alone 24, 48, max 72 hours, they won't do it. So we say key learning, personal life, professional life. Are you making a commitment to do that? And if so, what's the time frame and the deadline? Yeah. Well, I think it'll take me about an hour to practice that. And the deadline is, Tuesday at 4.
Got it. Okay. And then let's say the club or enrichment is origami.
Yeah.
Like you said, jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah.
You do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
How would you manage the environment with something like that? I mean, right, jiu-jitsu is not a very popular thing. I mean, it's getting more and more now. Maybe back in the day, 30 years ago, probably wasn't that big or popular.
Yeah, well, managing environment, that's like like I said earlier, well, pre-prep professionalism, it's there. Yeah. Well, to me, you just nailed it here. So I got to get everything cleared out, a big space. I got to put soft stuff around, right? So because people are going to go to the ground or, different things of that nature. So what kind of mat are we using? Do we have bean bags on the side in case it goes outside of the mat? Or, we're making sure that we're not on a hard surface, we're on a soft surface. I mean, all of that kind of stuff would go into, in my mind, to get that set up correctly.
Got it. Okay. And then, so now we'll move into healthy living.
Yeah.
And so what is some safety things you guys would talk about in healthy living or different things like that?
Well, so let's say that, I used to always talk about the 12 major muscle groups. Yeah. And so when we do our stretching, which we would do every day, we would talk about them. And so we may focus on, the calf. Yeah. Right? In day 1, week 1. Maybe then on day 2, we would, talk a little bit about the calf, then we talk about the hamstring. So on and so forth. So by the end of 2 or 3 weeks, just during that, because most people just stretch. And they don't talk about it. Yeah. But bigger than that, I made it what? That's correct. Learning opportunity. So I would teach them to stretch, and then we would give some of the scientific names from time to time. Because why would I do that? Why does it matter? What does it matter whether you call it the Batman muscle or the latissimus dorsi? Why does it matter? Well, it matters when you go to that doctor and you say latissimus dorsi, they're going to be like, oh, I better pay attention because they know what's going on. Right. So now this doctor's not listening to your little punk, eighth grader or whatever, or you're an adult. They're like, they're all that in a bag of chips or rocks or however you want to say it. Well, now that's how we take it. I said, now this is why this might be important for you. But then we would do variations of that. Yeah. Right? So, you mess your leg up. Well, you want to go Google. You go, my Batman muscle. Google ain't going to know what that is. Yeah. But if you say latissimus dorsi, they would know what that is. Right. Or if you say it's my latissimus dorsi on the medial side. Well, what's medial and what's lateral? What's, so we would just, not crazy.
Right. Not, yeah.
Right. And so, if you had a 3rd grader, you don't probably talk about the medial. Right? But you could talk about the calf. Yeah. And you can make it fun, right? You could say, okay, your calf is like the calf that gives you milk. You make it fun. They're like, oh, because that's the connection. Yeah. So, you can make it fun for them or not or whatever. But so to me, when you ask that, that's like, boom, it's spot on there.
Got it. And then, sticking with healthy living, where, that's where I was at, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. With healthy living, what is some things that the holistic instruction would look like? That you would talk about with them for, let's say, sleeping.
Okay. So first of all, don't ask me. I usually ask you where we're at. I was like, oh, curveball, like Mike Tyson hit me in the mouth a couple times. So about sleeping.
Yeah, the holistic.
So I just would start. Hey, what do you guys know about sleeping? Little Joe, little friend, I'm writing on the board. Or usually I had a kid write it. Get them involved as much as you can. Or I would say, hey, turn to your partner and talk about sleeping. Or hey, group up in groups of 4, talk about sleep. Whatever. Make it. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But make it look differently, right? So when we used to run our blast, it would look exact. It's the exact same play. We'd run it in 17 different formations.
Yeah.
Right, because that's confusing for the people.
Yeah.
So it's not confusing for them, but it makes it like, oh, this is fun. Like it's different, right? So. And what was the question again? Because I had a lot to say.
Sleeping about
yeah. So I'd say, what do you guys know about sleeping? And however, it's going to get on the board.
Okay.
And I'm going to say, oh, okay, cool. So I stated the objective. We're going to talk about sleeping.
Yeah.
Prior knowledge. What do you know about it? And then I'm going to go into my demonstration or my teaching, my instruction. Okay, well, what about side sleeping? What about back sleeping? What about, right? And then we would talk about that. We would say, so what's the advantage of putting the peanut butter and the jelly on the same side? Is there really one? No, because it's going out, whatever. What's the advantage? But maybe taste it is. Maybe not only is it peanut butter and jelly, but if you flip it and you taste the jelly first, right? So there's variations of this. So I say, okay, what's the best? I don't know. Turn to your neighbor and ask them what they think. Well, I think back sleep. Well, it depends. I don't know. If you're a pregnant mom's stomach, sleeping probably ain't very good. No. Right? So you would just talk with them and the variations. And again, how will that be in the real world? Right. Right? And you would go make a connection for them. Well, do you have any little brothers? Yeah. Was your mom pregnant? Yeah, go ask her if she ever slept on her belly. Right. Probably she did. I don't know. Maybe that was the most comfortable thing for her. Yeah. Right? If you sleep on your back, you got hemorrhoids, maybe it doesn't feel too comfortable. Yeah. If you got a goiter on your butt, I don't know. Right. But we would talk about that. And then we would say, let's practice. So then they would go, and I said, lay down on your side, lay down on your back. Okay, put your hands here. Put your hands here. Yeah. Put your hand, right? Okay, now lay on your side. Then we'd say, what's more comfortable? Right. What's more comfortable for you? So we'd share out. So then we'd say, okay, go practice these 5 different whatevers. Back, tummy, whatever, blah, blah, whatever. And so then I do a teachable moment. Ready, hit, that's a tension getter, instantly quiet. I'd say, hey, we said, Gordo over here, make a little joke, a little fat boy over here, he looked like he's pregnant, or, I'd usually say it about myself because it would hurt their feelings, but I'm like, look, I'm basically pregnant. Yeah. I'm sleeping on my stomach just fine, which I could not, by the way, it ain't comfortable. Right, but anyway, so you would go through this. Well, what about covers? What about, a nice bed? What about la? Because a lot of these kids didn't have a bed. So we would, and I knew that, so we would talk about how can you do that. Well, what about your clothes? Fluff your clothes around. What about, can you get a trash bag from your teacher who's got shredded up paper and sleep on that? Right. So we would just, we try to make it practical and pragmatic for them. So then we go through that, and then we would go to the last part, review. This is what I think is most important. And then we'd reflect, what do you think? And we'd make sure we'd make the connection for them. Like, you don't have to raise your hand on this, but do any of you not have a bed? Well, what are some things you can do from this lesson? Right? Yeah. Yeah, stuff like that. So, well, what if you don't have blankets? Well, maybe you sleep real close to your brother, body warm. Yeah. Just stuff. And so we would just really always trying to figure out how does it work in the real world. Right. Make it practical.
Got it. And so now moving to the academic piece of it. What is, how would that look professionally? Or, carrying professionalism.
Well, heck, man. Oh, and professionalism? Or professionally?
Professionalism, right? Yeah, professionalism.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I mean, to me, everybody says it's knowledge. That's the most important. And I say, no, it's know-how. Mm-hmm. But you have to have some knowledge. Mm-hmm. So you have to be professional. You have to know your stuff. Right. So if I put somebody out there who knows zero about the Nifty 9, and they have 10 years of experience, and I put somebody with 1 year of experience and they know the nifty 9, they're going to wipe the street with that other person. Probably.
Right.
Maybe not in all cases, but probably.
Okay.
Right? So sometimes experience trumps all.
Yeah.
But I didn't say just somebody who has the knowledge there.
Right.
Right? Being professional, which is to make sure you have the knowledge so that you can go out and teach in the correct way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if we talked about a jiu-jitsu guy,
Yeah.
you know, no real training, but he's been doing it for 10 years. Well, he may beat the guy that only has the knowledge in 1 year, but he may not too.
Right.
Because he knows how to get out of this hand or this hold, this lock, this whatever. And this guy probably knows some things. He could probably figure it out.
Yeah.
But he may know 17 things because he learned on his own. This person may know 117 things, but really focus only on 5. And these 5 are way more important than these 17. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So professional instruction, which is, I thought where you were going, but that's where I'd go anyway on that, is know your stuff.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
No, you got to know your stuff.
And then be able to say, if you don't, hey, let me find someone that does.
Absolutely, right? I mean, if you don't know your stuff, then you shouldn't be doing it anyway. Yeah. I mean, you know, at some level, everybody has to go, well, how do I get experience until I get that?
Yeah.
But you can do some, you know, some thinking about it and some knowledge and, you know, be thoughtful and take ownership and maybe a little studying or maybe not, but it's something, and then be thoughtful and take ownership while you're doing it, then come back and say, how can I be better the next day?
Right, got it. And so now we're let's say doing math, and the 6th graders having trouble with algebra 1. I don't know if they're doing 6th grade, but they're doing algebra 1.
I don't know. You lost me at algebra.
And they're clearly frustrated and they're acting out because they can't figure out this math.
Right.
So do you resort to behavior guidance or positive discipline? Where do you go from there?
Well, the first thing I would do is I think you know, hit the center of the problem. I always say, let's chop the bottom of the weed, mm-hmm. the root, right?
Yeah.
And so the frustration or the lashing out, it has nothing to do with, I don't need to guide their behavior. I need to teach them how to do this correctly.
Got it.
So if I don't have time, then I go get the smartest kid in class and we go peer to peer.
Got it.
Let him teach you, mm-hmm. right, along the way. And I'd already taught those kids in a separate spot, the ones that were the best at whatever, best at the sport, best, how to teach.
Yeah.
Not do it for them, but how to teach them, right?
Yeah.
How to be patient, how to, you know, different ways. So they'd already know, you know, up front.
Okay.
So, but if that did not work, then yeah, we go guide their behavior. And depending on if I'm working with the whole class, I can't stop and do whatever. So I go walk up on them, proximity.
Right.
If somebody else, you know, I used to tell the, I used to always have my little assistant, teacher assistant, a little coach, little Z.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
Yeah.
And I would say, hey, you're on. And I would walk out and they would have to just take over wherever we were at in holistic instruction. You know, and they'd go through it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'd teach them, if you get stuck, just go to the debrief or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'd take the kid outside or I'd go work with them one-on-one or whatever.
Yeah.
But usually in those cases, I like the way you ask the question and frame the question, because it's not about guiding their behavior or positive discipline.
Yeah.
They're frustrated because they don't know.
Right.
Right? And that's frustrating, right?
Yeah.
If you didn't know how to go to the restroom, that's frustrating.
Yeah.
If you didn't know how to wipe your rear end and your butt's itching, that doesn't feel too good, right? So I think I like the way you frame that. But if I had to go in, it'd be the same way I do positive discipline or behavior guidance for either one.
Right.
It doesn't matter. That would be all the same. Proximity, or you're on a timeout, you know, go think about this, or, you know, whatever the case may be. If I didn't have a kid in there because they were the smartest, then I would either send them to another room and have them just chill out, or I'd bring in the high school kids that were smart enough to teach them.
Right.
So, you know, we always had something where we could help the kids to achieve whatever they're trying to achieve, because, you know, who wants to be frustrated? Nobody.
No,
it sucks.
Yeah. And then, now the second one, this is similar question. So frustrated, but not because of math, not because they had a bad day, but because something happened at home.
Yeah.
What is something, how would you deal with something like that, you know, because you probably don't know right then and there. It takes time to uncover that. Yeah.
So I would know.
Okay.
But it's because I did a lot of work up front. I'll tell you a very sad story. So, my first year actually teaching. So I had worked with this group as a permanent sub before I got my job for Special Day.
Yeah.
And you've heard this story before. It'll break your heart. So we had this kid named Miguel, he's an 8th grader, and super smart at math, but he's a special day kid. He can't read. I think he's from maybe Mexico or something. And, he just didn't learn the language, right?
Yeah.
And so he used to sit with his head down, and I don't care, and you know how Bakersfield, I think it's 110.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. He'd have his hoodie over his head, and he just would sit there. And they told me before I started teaching him, you can't get through to him. Yeah, that's a bad thing to say to me. I even if you didn't say that, I'm going to get through to you, I had another kid that they said that with that had epileptic seizures.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, she didn't talk to me. I go, oh, okay. But anyway, getting back to Miguel. So, and all the kids were like, what do you have to do home? I go, I'm sorry. Is that your desk? Yeah. Well, then that's where you need to keep your brain out. Miguel got nothing to do with you. So what I did over time, so you asked the question, how would you intervene? Yeah. Well, again, I try not to intervene.
Yeah.
So I'd go up and I'd just slap him like that. I'd just walk away. I wouldn't say nothing else. And so the only assignment that he would do is a little math. And so I'd give him a big old smiley face, or I'd always praise him, whatever. Yeah. And I just would keep by, and I would I'd mumble to him, "You're a winner."
Yeah.
It gets me teary-eyed.
Yeah.
But I just kept on, and so after about 90 days, he speaks. He didn't speak to anybody, nobody. He didn't talk to anybody. And he goes, "I need to talk to you." I'm looking under the table. Yeah. I'm like, who's the ventriloquist throwing their voice, right?
Right.
And he said, I thank you for what you're doing, in very broken English. I said, oh, yeah, I care about you, man. And I said, what's going on, if you don't mind me asking? Yeah. Huh, this will break your heart, man. So he's the oldest of like 5 siblings.
Yeah.
His grandfather brings him into a room with the 5 right in front, just like we're doing right here, the audience, puts a shotgun in his mouth and pulls the trigger in front of those kids. Yeah, and I'm like, so we don't know what's going on in other people's heads. So for him to just be there was winning in my mind. Yeah. And I didn't know what the story was, but I knew there's something. Yeah. And so by the end, he wound up actually going into RSP, which is a step up from Special Day, because he was a smart kid.
Right.
But he was messed up. He's effed up. How would you be? Yeah. So, and he's the oldest. It's bad enough with young men. He had to help his siblings. He didn't know how to respond to this, so he just put on the hoodie and did his thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Worse than crazy.
So now we're going to move into closing.
Yeah.
We'll start with the debrief. Mm-hmm. Obviously you're closing already. So
yeah.
It kind of worked out.
It's perfect. Yeah. You're hitting them right. You're clicking them in the right spots. Yeah. We would always, before we started the true close of the games or different things, we would get them all circled up. Mm-hmm. Remember, now this was probably the 15th form of some sort of a debrief or a review or reflection or thumbs up, check it, something. Yeah. And then we would say, now let's go through this. So let's look at your whole day. It doesn't have to be after school day. It could be your whole instructional day or from the time you left. What was your key learning or learnings today? Okay. At least pick one of those, and how will you use that learning in your personal life? How will you use it in your professional life? And we would do that, and then we'd be like, okay, go do your thing. Right, then they go grab Connect 4, chess, or play music in the corner, whatever, kind of unwind for the day. Yeah. But we always did that at least once. Right. And we tried to do it at least twice. We would debrief in the opening about the instructional day, and then we would debrief at the end. Got it. But we would do, like kind of what I used to say with sales, the tie downs. Yeah. Get to a lot of little yeses. We do a lot of little debriefs that didn't take thumbs up, down, or whatever doesn't take. Turn to your partner and tell them what you learned. Oh, blue shirt on Monday doesn't take very long.
Got it. And then line of sight, that was managing the environment, correct?
I count that. It could be, but it's more safety.
Okay, safety. Yeah. And with safety, with closing, is that, I don't want to say the most time you need to be safety awareness, but because it's closing, everything, parents are coming in, they grab the wrong kids, stuff like that, or how does that work?
Yeah, I would say a little bit, but we were hypersensitive to anything that had to do with safety.
Okay.
You know, right? Because, you know, we had a few things go bad at some times. I mean, I take that back. We did not, but when we were out consulting, you know, a couple kids that, you know, got lost or were smoking marijuana on the deal, or just, you know, it happens. But it happened. My wife's been, you know, 30 something years. It's happened, you know, to her. She runs the preschools, the daycares, and some other programs. It's happened to her too. I mean, you know, they're kids. You can't get them all. No. But you put checks and balances in place to ensure that doesn't happen. Yeah. But for us, we were kind of hypersensitive, especially when we were consulting, because a lot of that was in lower socioeconomic areas, and there are bad people out there. Right. And so we wanted to make sure that we were always hypersensitive. The other part of that at night, depending on the time of the year, is dark.
Right.
You know, like right now it's light and, you know, whatever, because of daylight savings. But that was another reason why safety probably was a little bit tougher at night. And what you said, you know, people coming in and, you know, and then we had to get in the middle of a lot of this. The dad wasn't on the release form. He'd just show up. I'm taking my kid. I'm like, no, you're not. Right. Well, what do you mean? Yeah, then you got a guy who's, you know, 6'5" and, you know, looks like he plays for the Oilers or something. And do they have the Oilers? Whoever the new team is. I guess the Oilers for hockey. Yeah, but I was thinking the Houston Oilers back in the day. Yeah, you know, I mean, you know, has a few more tattoos than you do or whatever. You know, and probably seen a little prison time. Yeah. And, you know, he's like, oh, it's my kid. I'm like, whatever, dude. Yeah. Good luck to you, because that ain't happening. Right? And so we had little things, broken record or whatever, but, you know, there was times we had to physically restrain some dudes. Yeah. What am I going to do? I don't care about you as the parent. I care about that kid. Right. Yeah, that's my deal. And we had to get in the breakup, you know, full on, you know, moms and dads fist fighting and all kinds of stuff, dude. Yeah. So, but I like the way you frame that, because that's maybe a little more heightened sense of safety. But for us, that was a big deal to us anyway. Yeah.
And then as you're closing up, parents are coming. If you, let's say, you've had to positive discipline the kid, you know, 3 times in a row, or, you know, something's not right, do you then go and talk to the parent as a phone call, or no, you wait for them to show up? How would you deal with something like that? You know, it's a great question, and we varied it. Because, you know, so first of all, we called every parent several times before at the beginning of the year, before anybody ever got in trouble. So I'll give you an example. So it's my first year teaching, and I call my 16 special day kids' parents. And as you can imagine, every phone call that they've had, you know, bad, terrible, right? My kids. So call one. Surprise, they answered the phone. Hi, this is Mr. Zans, blah, 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 whatever. They go, what'd he do? I didn't even get out like barely my name. What'd he do wrong? Oh, I don't know what he did wrong. I was just here to tell you what he did right. Huh? They said, what did you just say? I said, well, I don't know what they did wrong, but I wanted to tell you what a great job they did, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So now I'm building a relationship with them. Right. Or when we used to sit at the special day meetings, it would go, you know, usually a single parent. Yeah. And then it would go suit, double suit, power dress, you know, whatever. Meaning psychologist, speech pathologist, principal, you know, whatever, right? And then there's me. Yeah. Right? And so... Just like this?
Yeah, in shorts, right? And I'm like... So I was looking, you know, I always try to look at things differently, and I'm like, I wonder how they feel. Probably not real good. Yeah. So I used to kick it with them. I'd go on their side. And I'd look at all those guys like it's me and you. So now I'm developing this relationship with these parents in a positive manner. Yeah. So then it didn't matter whether I called them or it was there or whatever. Yeah. But I like I would have rather have called them not knowing if that was the best time than when they came here and it was a bad time, because then they don't want to come and enjoy the closing and stuff like that. Yeah. But I mean, you know, is there ever a good time to tell anybody bad news? Probably not. No. But I had done, and we had done as a group, enough positives to where they were like, cool, this isn't like this teacher, like every other teacher, being a jackass or a donkey to my kid. They're just wanting the best because, you know, they've already told me 14 positive things. Now they're saying something that's a concern.
Right, so it's more validated, I guess.
Yeah, I think it makes, well, I just think it makes you feel better, right? I mean, if I told you 20 praises in a row and I come up to you on the 21st time and say, hey, do you have a second? You're thinking it's going to be a praise.
Yeah.
If it's not a praise, then you're like, well, okay. I mean,
Right.
the next 20 probably be praises.
Right.
And we can all deal with those kind of ratios.
Yeah.
It's when it's the other way around.
Right.
Which is what we see with parents hammering on their kids. You know, especially in sports. You and I saw that. We're like, the one guy, I don't remember where he's from. Yeah, he's a 10-9 guy. He's he can long jump 27 feet. He's da-da-da-da. He broke the record, da-da-da, blah. And remember, you and I were looking at each other like, is this the same fool that kid walked you bubblegum last year? So his dad lies, Mr. Christian Pastor Liar. And then after the first race, he runs, you know, not 10-9, but like 13-9. Yeah. And he goes, I don't know what's wrong with you. It's like, it ain't him, it's you, idiot. Yeah. You're the freaking problem. Why do you need to lie about your kid? He's here. He's at the Nationals. Apparently, you guys only had one person that competed in your district or area, but whatever.
Yeah.
Let's look at the positive side.
Yep.
And here's your 8th place participation trophy. Yeah. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, come on, people.
Yep.
Let's get this right. This is a practicing ground for youth, for the real world. And oh, by the way, we're all youth when we start something new for the first time. I could be 70 years old and they're going to teach me how to do, you know, be a mechanic on my car and better treat me like a 2-year-old. Right. Because I don't know anything about being a mechanic, but that's not how we do it.
Right.
If you need to contact Brett or Coach, please do so on his social media accounts, email, and or text. You can find that information in the description below. Again, please like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit the notification bell. Thanks, and we hope you enjoyed.
My hands are sweaty. I'm sweaty.
It's hot here, man.